Coming up on Network Africa, at least 17 people die in a head-on collision between two trains in southwestern Angola. Twelve people die in a landslide in southern Ethiopia. And a UN inquiry says Burundi is still committing crimes against humanity. Hello and welcome to the program. I'm Teniola Sheboale. We begin today in Central Africa, where at least 17 people have been killed in a head-on collision between two trains in the southwestern region of Angola. The office of the regional governor says 12 others were injured after a train run by the state rail firm smashed into a stationary maintenance train that was being operated by Chinese engineers. In a statement, the governor says the crash appears to have been caused by human error, as an on-duty railway employee could not prevent the departure of the train loaded with granite from the Lubango station. An investigation has been launched into the accident. In Ethiopia, at least 12 people have been killed after heavy rains triggered a landslide in the southern region. Rescue agency officials say 4 others were severely injured and the bodies of 10 people have been recovered. The victims were killed when the landslide crushed 3 houses in the Douro zone of the Horn of Africa. The agency says the search is ongoing to uncover the remaining of 2 bodies. Last year, a landslide at a rubbish landfill site in the capital killed 15 people. In East Africa, a UN human rights report says more crimes against humanity were committed in Burundi in the year 2017 and 2018. This is being supported by rhetoric from top officials, including President Pierre Nkurunziza. In its latest report, the UN Commission of Inquiry on Burundi says it has reasonable grounds to believe that crimes against humanity continues to be committed by officials at the highest level in the country. The crimes include murder, imprisonment, torture, rape, and other forms of sexual violence and persecution on political grounds. In the past, Burundi has tried and failed to stop the UN Commission of Inquiry set up by the UN Human Rights Council in 2016 and refuses to cooperate with it. Let's get more on this story now from a senior lecturer of international law at the Nasarawa State University, Mr. Chukwuemeka Eze. He joins us live from our Abuja studio. Thank you for joining us on the program.
Thank you, Tanela.
What do you make of the UN report that Burundi officials at the highest level are still committing crimes against humanity?
What I make of that report is it is consistent with UN reports since 2015, when Pierre Nkurunziza decided to contest for a 3rd term against the provisions of the Burundi constitution and against the Arusha Accords of 28 August 2000. So since that time, Pierre Nkurunziza and his cohorts have done everything to retain power, and they have used every means to retain power. Since then, the UN reports have been consistent that crimes against humanity have been committed in Burundi. The National Council for the Defense of Democracy Forum for the Defense of Democracy in Burundi, that is the ruling party, has used its youth wing to commit murder, and torture. And as we know, the right against torture is a right that is, has attained the right of principle of jus cogens, doctrine of jus cogens under international law. So it is already international customary law. So Burundi, besides being a member of the United Nations, is a member of the African Union. So Burundi restrained the United Nations from sending 3,000 policemen to Burundi in 2016. Burundi has prevented even the United Nations inquiry from taking off. Burundi has stopped the Office of the High Commissioner for Human Rights from performing its functioning in Burundi. So basically, Burundi's report has been consistent in relation to that of 22nd August 2018 by the United Nations.
So with the government so against it and refusing to cooperate with the UN Commission, how credible is the report?
The report is credible by all standards because on this matter, not just the United Nations, the East African Community, the African Union Security and Peace and Security Council that had earlier suggested sending 5,000 soldiers to Burundi when Pierre Nkurunziza threatened to fight them and they withdrew in April 2016. So the report is quite credible by our standards. Nobody has doubted that report. And you know that Burundi, in order to run away from the consequences of its actions, purportedly left the International Criminal Court, withdrew its signature and ratification from the Rome Statute, and as such, thinking that it will not be visited by the consequences of its crimes against humanity. But those reports are very valid at all times.
So what happens next after this? Are officials in Burundi likely to face prosecution, maybe at the ICC, for these crimes?
Yes, they are likely to face prosecution for the consequences of their actions, knowing that the United Nations has a negotiated relationship agreement with the ICC. And it is a reality that the United Nations may invoke the provisions of that negotiated relationship agreement to refer Burundi to the ICC. It has done it before. It did it in the case of Sudan with respect to Omar al-Bashir, and in the case of Libya, in the case of the late Muammar Gaddafi and his son, Saif al-Islam. So it is not impossible that the United Nations may be considering that option. But with the decision not to contest the 2020 election by Pierre Nkurunziza, the United Nations may decide to give him a soft landing. But if this continues, considering the 12-year war from 1993 to 2005, I don't think the United Nations will want to wait for what happened in Rwanda in 1994, the genocide of Rwanda, for it to happen in Burundi. And I think this is what the United Nations is trying to avoid. And if going to the ICC will help hammer the position of the UN into the ears and eyes of the leaders of Burundi, I think the United Nations wouldn't mind doing that.
Mr. Chukwuemeka Eze, thank you for joining us on the program. It's always a pleasure speaking with you.
Thank you very much.